Okay, let's dive right into this incredibly detailed chapter. Up until now, we've heard the precise divine instructions. But here in Exodus chapter 37, the blueprints finally become a physical reality. We are stepping right into the workshop. We get to witness the actual physical construction of the most holy items in the biblical world. We're going to examine the unbelievable craftsmanship, the raw materials, and the exact step-by-step process used to build these truly fascinating artifacts.
Welcome to the Pardis channel. Today, we explain Exodus chapter 37 in a clear and simple way, step by step. We are going to look strictly at the plain text, what is often called the Peshat, so no detours into complex symbolism or deep mysticism today. Instead, we're focusing entirely on who's doing the work, what they're building, where it all belongs, and the magnificent step-by-step process of their creation, just as it's recorded in the original text.
For our explainer today, we're taking a highly structured walkthrough. We'll start with context and the ark, move to the table of showbread, check out the golden lampstand, and finish the construction phase with the incense altar and oils. After that, we'll wrap up with some explanations and key ideas, followed by lessons and a final recap.
Starting with Section 1, Context and the Ark. In verses 1 through 9, our chief artisan, Bezalel, gets to work constructing the absolute focal point of the entire tabernacle, the inner sanctuary.
Now, real quick, to truly visualize these items, we need to get a handle on the measurements. Whenever the text mentions a cubit, it's talking about an ancient unit of measurement based on the length of a human forearm. Picture the distance from your elbow to the tip of your middle finger. So for our purposes, just imagine roughly 18 inches or about 45 centimeters. Keeping that scale in mind is absolutely crucial because it helps us realize these aren't massive, towering monuments. They're incredibly heavy and highly valuable, for sure, but they're relatively compact pieces of portable furniture.
It's really interesting how methodically verses 1 through 5 detail Bezalel building the Ark of the Covenant. He starts by crafting a sturdy box out of acacia wood. The dimensions are precise: 2.5 cubits long, a cubit and a half wide, and a cubit and a half high. Next, he completely overlays this wooden box with pure gold. And get this, not just on the outside, but on the inside as well. He adds a decorative gold molding around it. And finally, so it can be carried without being directly touched, he casts 4 solid gold rings, attaches them to its feet, and inserts carrying poles. And yep, those poles are also made of acacia wood heavily overlaid with gold. Moving on to verses 6 through 9, Bezalel crafts the lid for the ark, which is known as the atonement cover. Now, unlike the ark itself, this cover isn't made of wood covered in gold. It is forged from pure, solid gold. And here is where the craftsmanship becomes truly breathtaking. He carefully fashions 2 cherubim. These are winged angelic figures facing each other right upon the cover. They're hammered out of the exact same single piece of pure gold as the cover itself. Their wings spread upward, magnificently overshadowing the lid, and essentially establishing the holiest focal point of the entire sanctuary.
That brings us to Section 2, the table of showbread and the sacred offerings. Stepping just outside that innermost space, we find the table specifically built to hold the bread of the presence.
Now, the big takeaway here is that this table is built using the exact same core materials and transport method as the ark itself. Bezalel builds it from acacia wood, just slightly smaller than the ark, 2 cubits long, a cubit wide, and a cubit and a half high. He overlays it with pure gold and adds that gold molding. But he also adds a unique feature: a rim about a handbreadth wide all the way around the edge, which is also crowned with its own gold molding. And exactly like the ark, he crafts 4 gold rings for the corners and makes gold-overlaid acacia poles so the priests can respectfully carry it.
To go with the table, Bezalel crafted some very specific accessory vessels. Verse 16 is short, but it's incredibly wealthy in its description. He makes plates, dishes, bowls, and pitchers for pouring out the drink offerings. And pay attention to the material here. They're made entirely out of pure gold. There's 0 wood underneath. Everything that actually touches the sacred offerings on this table is solid, unblemished gold. Next up is Section 3, the golden lampstand. Let's look at the magnificent menorah that was placed directly opposite the table, illuminating the tent. This piece brilliantly illustrates a major shift in the craftsmanship. Up until now, the major pieces of furniture, the ark and the table, were basically wooden boxes at their core, covered in gold. But the golden lampstand? It contains absolutely no wood at all. The text is incredibly clear. It is hammered entirely out of a single, solid piece of pure beaten gold. Bezalel didn't cast a bunch of separate pieces and melt them together. He literally sculpted the entire complex structure out of one continuous block of metal.
The text gives us jaw-dropping detail here, describing what is essentially a botanical masterpiece. It has a base and a central shaft with 6 branches curving outward, 3 on one side, 3 on the other. But it's the decoration that is just mind-blowing. Bezalel hammered in cups shaped exactly like almond flowers, complete with buds and blossoms. I mean, just imagine the sheer skill required to hammer delicate flower petals and buds out of solid gold. He also made it 7 lamps, the wick trimmers, and the trays, all of pure gold.
Verse 24 really gives us a sense of the massive scale and value of this single item. Bezalel used exactly 1 talent of pure gold to forge the lampstand and all its accessories. To put that into perspective, a talent is an ancient measure of weight that equals roughly 75 pounds, or about 34 kilograms. That is 75 pounds of pure, unalloyed gold, hammered entirely by hand into a delicate, flower-adorned source of light. No way, right? It's just incredible. Moving into section 4, incense, altar, and oils. In verses 25 through 29, we find the final pieces of the interior furniture. We return to that familiar acacia wood and bold overlay technique here. Now, this specific altar was designed purely for burning sweet spices. It's not for animal sacrifices. That's a different, much larger bronze altar kept outside. This incense altar is tall and perfectly square, 1 cubit long, 1 cubit wide, and 2 cubits high. Bezalel carved horns into its 4 corners, making them one continuous piece with the wood. Then, he completely overlaid the top, all the sides, and the horns with pure gold, before adding the familiar gold molding, rings, and carrying poles. To wrap up this section of the work, verse 29 briefly mentions that special skills were required, well beyond just woodworking and metallurgy. Bezalel crafted the sacred anointing oil and the pure, fragrant incense. The text explicitly points out he did this after the art of the perfumer. It wasn't just tossing things together. It was a highly specialized, exact chemical mix of sweet spices meant exclusively for this sacred space.
All right, section 5, explanations and key ideas. Let's step back for a second and look at the simple meaning of what's actually happening in the text.
Notice how everything is highly unified in its design and purpose. You can see the clear patterns. Acacia wood forms durable, earthly foundation, but pure gold is the only thing visible in the exterior of these innermost, most sacred objects. Every piece of furniture, except the solid gold lampstand, utilizes the exact same system of rings and poles. The text is showing us an incredibly organized, highly intentional environment. Nothing is random. The whole shebang belongs to one unified set.
Now, if you read this chapter right after reading the earlier chapters of Exodus, you might honestly be wondering, why on earth does the text repeat itself? Why doesn't it just say, Bezalel built the furniture exactly as God previously instructed and save some ink? Instead, it lists every single dimension, every ring, and every pole all over again.
Well, the answer lies in the simple, literal meaning of the text. It's documenting absolute, unquestioning obedience. The repetition proves that the artisans didn't improvise. They didn't step back and think, 3 cubits might look a little better in this space than 2.5. No, they followed the exact blueprints they'd been given down to the fraction of a cubit. The text repeats the details to assure us that the physical reality precisely matched the divine vision. Which brings us to section 6, lessons and final recap. Let's see what practical, everyday life lessons we can take away from this explainer. That dedication of Bezalel teaches us that precision and care really do matter. True excellence requires close attention to detail. We see that simply following instructions carefully is a profound form of dedication and respect. Furthermore, the text goes out of its way to describe almond blossoms and gold moldings. This tells us that bringing beauty and fine craftsmanship into our work actually elevates it. And lastly, whether you're hammering 75 pounds of gold or mixing spices as a perfumer, every single roll is deeply valuable to the finished project. We've just walked through an entire chapter focused completely on putting in the honest, step-by-step work to build something extraordinary. Bezalel took raw materials, wood, metal, and spices, and through pure obedience and immense skill, turned them into something sacred. So how can we apply that same level of deliberate, golden dedication to the daily tasks and responsibilities right in front of us today? Thank you for learning with us. If this helped you understand the chapter better, like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter.